Hey everybody, my name is Kyle Manning, and today I am here to talk to you about the Triassic period. The Triassic period was the first period of the Mesozoic era. It happened between about 251 million years ago and 199 million years ago. It was a very prosperous time for many different land and sea creatures, and things such as distribution of the continents, the evolution of life, and also the world distribution of living things. To start off, let's talk a little bit about geography and the Earth at the time. The Earth was made up of one continent, Pangaea, which stretched from pole to pole, which I'm pretty sure most of us know about and know what it looks like from middle school and high school. We've been learning that for a while. But during this period, something started to happen. Pangaea began to break apart, forming Gondwana and Laurasia. This movement of these two supercontinents was caused by the spreading of the sea floor at the mid-oceanic ridge in the body of water between Gondwana and Laurasia. The splitting was happening more and more, causing mountains to form from modern-day Alaska to Chile by subduction of continental plates. They kept changing and moving farther and farther apart, but this was just the start of the Triassic extinctions. Areas in southern Africa and Southern America are places that provide us with the best fossil records from the Triassic extinction. The climate during this period was mostly very arid and dry due to the mass amounts of land that were farther and farther away from each ocean from each side, creating massive deserts. Since Pangaea pretty much straddled the equator, it was very hot, and the sea levels basically maintained the same throughout the period, creating a very dry climate, except near the coasts, which were affected by monsoons and rising and lowering tides. The creatures and species during this time were virtually completely changed due to the Permian end event, which happened just before the Triassic period, which almost led to a more prosperous time for many other species, including the dinosaurs. Now, let's talk a little bit more about what types of animals roamed the Earth, or Pangaea, 200 million years ago. Let's start with marine life during the Triassic period. During the Permian period and end event, nearly 95% of marine genera became extinct from the oceans due to high carbon dioxide levels. This period shows the first development of stony-looking corals, the ones that we kind of know today, and a time when coral reefs were beginning to show up. Some reptiles were also starting to return from the oceans from the end Permian extinction, and they looked very lizard-like, something that we would recognize today, which clearly depicts their tetrapod ancestry. These evolved into more modern species, something that we would notice today, like a dolphin-looking animal and fish-like species that swim by propulsion of their fins. One such species during the mid-Triassic, the Shonosaurus, was believed to be over 50 meters long and weigh over 30 tons. Now that is a big, scary animal I would not want to be swimming with. Now let's move on to land and talk about some reptiles. The Mesozoic era, which is part of the Triassic period, is known as the Age of the Reptiles. Now, there were two main types of reptiles: a more mammal-like reptile, the therapids, and a more reptilian-looking archosaurs. Toward the middle of the Triassic period, the therapids nearly became extinct, so the archosaurs really dominated. From these archosaurs, the first mammals were formed and discovered to be living at the end of the Triassic period. But they weren't anything too crazy. They were usually tiny, fur-bearing animals, only a few inches in length, and mainly herbivores, eating plants, and insectivores, eating insects. But one of the first true dinosaurs appeared during this period. It was known as the Coelophysis. It was a predator that stood on 2 feet and usually ate smaller reptiles and amphibians. They weren't very big, about the size of your average dog, which is about 3 meters in length and weighed up to about 60 pounds. It is believed that the Coelophysis could take down even larger animals by tearing into its skin with its razor-sharp teeth. But this wasn't the only dinosaur to appear in this period. The first giant dinosaur appeared. It was called the Plateosaurus. This bad boy was a giant. He weighed in at over 3 tons and grew up to 7 meters in length. They had very coarsely serrated teeth. But don't get too scared of these dinosaurs because they were herbivores and ate plants, and they used their teeth to bite through the thick vegetation. Now let's talk about the Triassic extinction. What actually caused this extinction is up for debate. Scientists are not 100% sure what caused it, but there are many different theories as to why. First off, this mass extinction cleared over 75% of marine and land terrestrial species from the Earth, which led the way for the dinosaurs to become dominant on the Earth. One theory is that it was caused by a giant asteroid that hit the Earth to cause the extinction. While this has some evidence for it, most of the evidence is against it. If an asteroid were to hit the Earth, it would cause an almost immediate extinction due to the impact. But scientists have pretty much concluded that the extinction happened over hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years. But some theories have a little more evidence and seem much more likely than an asteroid hitting the Earth. One of the most well-known and accepted theories had to do with volcanic eruptions. Over a short period of time, massive volcanic eruptions were happening. These eruptions spewed massive amounts of lava and gas all over the two supercontinents. With these eruptions, it spewed massive amounts of carbon dioxide, sulfur, and methane gas. The sudden release of these gases caused a bit of a global warming and made the oceans very, very acidic. Now, this acidity in the ocean ultimately killed off thousands and thousands of marine animal and plant species. We have very strong evidence of this because researchers at MIT determined that these volcanic eruptions happened at exactly the same time as a mass extinction began, and they happened over a period of time about 40,000 years, which is very minuscule in the scheme of how old the Earth is. They concluded this theory by finding evidence of the same volcanic eruptions on the coast of the United States and Morocco, which ultimately means they came from Pangaea, the supercontinent, and they drifted apart to where they are today. In conclusion, the Triassic extinction was one of the biggest extinctions our Earth has ever seen, wiping out nearly 76% of marine and land species all across the world, changing the geography of the continents, and leading the way for the dinosaurs to dominate the Earth for millions of years to come. Thank you.